Minasan, Mac Mechanic here, and today we'll be doing another tier list. I mean, it's been a while since I did a tier list, and I'm fully aware that I'm very late to this one.
Disappointed!
Partially because I wasn't able to find a good tier list or someone who worked on the tier list on the Lyrical booster. So I'm glad I found, early BTO 5 release so I can make a video about it. And yeah, I'll be making the BTO 5 tier list later on this month. So looking forward to that. So before you say anything, yes, I know that there are already entries up there. These are actually the entries that I did during the BTO 4 tier list as well. I will leave the link in the description for those who watch this on mobile. Overall, this is just a kind of like a continuation of the tier list, just adding in the new cards and everything. I will not be considering BTO 5 card, of course, but I think overall Lyrical deserve their own tier list because with how many red line there is in just one single nation. So if you're already this far into the video, consider like, share and subscribe to this channel, and ring that bell to keep up with the notification. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of this year, so any new subscriber, any like and everything is always really appreciated, and for those who already do so, thank you so much. And without further ado, let's start off from the top with Romero. So Roro, in my opinion, didn't really get a lot of support in this booster. Most of her support are leaning more towards the B-stick, so it's just making her boost column a little bit more consistent, which was one of her problem, minor one of course. But I think one of the biggest support that she did get is through Meredith. I will leave the card up there so that you guys know what I'm talking about here. Meredith allows you to search for other cards, and this does help this deck a bit, as one of the biggest bottleneck of Romero is the fact that you may or may not have enough song to play during the certain time. Of course, the early search of the songs always make the deck a little bit easier to hit that two song face down all the time, but I do feel that the fact that she doesn't have a dedicated song searcher make her a little bit balanced, but at the same time also her biggest problem. And Meredith kind of fixed the issue, not completely since you do need to hit with those skills, but I think there is enough support for Romero to still maintain the #1 on the list. Okay, now let's move on to the Clarissa. And Clarissa, or Earth Vanish for those who play the deck, I think gets a good amount of support in terms of the consistency. It allowed them to get the base setup of the board, with the new grade 2 that allow you to get the order, with the new unit that allow you to get the specific order, as well as the card that allow you to search for the specific grade 2 of Arcanist, which allowed you to set the ideal board very quickly.
Hey, that's pretty good.
The problem with Clarissa is still remain as its main mechanic. On hit Vanguard, in my opinion, has been one of the more underwhelming mechanics in the D. It's too OG, I feel. And because of that, as much as she get a lot of consistency pieces, she still retained where she was. Now she can kind of more or less fight fairly with the tier 3 decks, but anything higher might have a bit trouble.
No, he's got a point.
Okay, then come to Feltiros, and in my opinion, Feltiros is kind of stagnant in the sense that the new ghosts come in, it's just another beast. It does give you some new resource, which I think I'm very appreciated for Feltiros player, but I think overall it doesn't really improve her gameplay too much. Of course, some players might be disagreeing with me, especially the Feltiros player, as I'm not fully playing this deck properly, I feel. But I do think overall, Feltiros compared to some of the deck in the tier list, together with the updated list of the new deck, is on the lower tier of being good. Okay, let's move on to the decks that did get the tier change, and let's start off with Celestial.
Let's go!
The biggest bottleneck of Celestial back in the release of the Lyrical booster was the fact that her White Wing and Black Wing is kind of an RNG based mechanic, in the sense that you need to get your top deck really lucky to actually play. So it kind of forced the player to the player of the deck to kind of adapt based on the wing that you are getting from during that turn. And she get a card that essentially fix all her problems in the form of Funnel. And Funnel also open up a very interesting thing to Alessio, and that is a variety in the way she built. And the way she built is very different from the other decks that is being built. Like for example, Bruce have Soul Charge build and like a Fam aggro build, and those are more or less pretty much similar with in terms of playstyle. Alessio has a completely
ディフラント
playstyle, which introduced element of unpredictability. Playstyle that Alessio can kind of go into now is of course White Wing and Black Wing separately, but now these two get a lot more consistency, and the Black Wing build is a lot more useful now thanks to one of the new cards that allow herself from attacking from the back row. And then we have our hybrid. In fact, I think thanks to Fanael, the hybrid is now possible. Of course, I'm not talking about like putting Fanael in just white deck and call it a hybrid. That's not hybrid.
NANI?
And when I say hybrid, I mean mixing the two elements of White Wing and Black Wing together and forming something really, really good. And I think that element of unpredictability makes Alessio really, really good. And that's why I decided to put her in between like tier 2, tier 3. She's still not like tier 2 level material because, you know, ultimately when it boils down to everything, she's still a 3 attack deck. She needs all other hippies to really, really make her shine. And because of that, that's why I feel she's not fully worth it to go into like the top tier decks yet. Then we have Kyrie, and in my opinion, this Kyrie and Alessio are more or less in the same place. I know some people might disagree on this, but hear me out on this one. I have playtested Kyrie, and I feel that its potential is huge, but I just don't know how to play it properly. But because of that fact, the fact that you need to learn properly how to play Kyrie kind of brings down the tier a bit in my opinion. Because similar to Alessio, it does have that unpredictability because you can kind of bring the different support from different right line and playing Kyrie, and it will kind of works. The problem I feel is that I don't know what's the best way to build Kyrie, and I think that's something that I'm gonna need your help in the comments below. What are the best Kyrie combos? Do leave in the comments below. But I think she is really good. She's still a bit slow because of the fact that you do need to ride into grade 4. But unlike Magnolia support kind of revolve around spawning 6 units on the field quickly, which allow it to have a very consistent 6 attack during the elder turn. Kyrie doesn't really have that. Kyrie has a good offensive capability skill, but I feel that there is not enough support to really support playstyle of Kyrie. And I think for a good reason. If there's a good card that's coming out right now, she would be quite broken. So yeah, that's why I decided Kyrie, actually I'll just put it higher than Alessio. She's definitely better than Alessio, at least in my opinion. Multi-attack decks always better.
Of course!
And now let's move on to everybody's meme, the Lyrical meme, Billy Star.
Why you boring me? I'm right!
And let's be real, Billy Star is like Eugene.
What?
In the sense that regardless of how many support you're gonna give it to her, her mechanics are inherently not very good. As much as it is a very fun mechanic, it's just not very good and practical in the terms of Vanguard, and because of that, it kind of hard to compete in against the other Lyrical deck or even the deck just what a tier higher than her. Like Villistar has a really solid options, but I feel that she missing the new unit doesn't have enough impact to really push her to higher tier, and that's why I feel Villistar kind of needs that very soon, or else she'll be like Eugene, got left behind in the dust. Now let's come to the brand new decks, Herbinia and Mimish, I forget her name. I kind of forget her name. Anyway, the friend mechanic. So Herminia, in my opinion, as it just released, is not very good.
Why you boring me? I'm right!
Here's the reason why. Herminia mechanics powerful revolves around you having no resource at all, and that is not exactly a good thing, especially for Herminia effect that require both your soul to be 0 and have 0 counterblast. I'm aware that powerful deck easily can achieve this, but the fact that the mechanic that kind of force you to be in the disadvantage hasn't been a good thing in Vanguard. We have seen multiple mechanic with it, with like Brave for example. So what you can see is that if the mechanic gonna force you to be in a disadvantage, inherent disadvantage, it better pay out properly. And currently Herminia doesn't seem to do that for you. At least for me, sorry. And overall, that's why I think she need a support. I need to see what's her new support first, then I think I can really judge her properly. What I can kind of judge properly though is friends, and I'm gonna put here in kind of the same higher tier as Gridon. She's very similar to Gridon. In fact, she's like the inverse of Gridon. Gridon in regard to get the restand. The friend deck kind of do the opposite. You have 6 friends and you restand it. That sounds like a mixer, isn't it? Mimish, in my opinion, I think is a pretty solid deck in the sense that the friend mechanic are pretty good. The only problem I have is that most of the friend mechanic relies you to have 2 units constantly on the field, and as we know in the top tier decks, they at least have some way of controlling the rearguard. All of these decks has, all the high tier decks have some way of controlling the opponent rearguard. So this is kind of like an inherent disadvantage, and unlike Harmony, which I can see that the frame mechanic is based on, Harmony does have the unit that get Harmony effect when another unit is placed. There are some Harmony that need another unit to be called to be in the same column constantly. Friend is kind of like the latter, and that is not exactly a good thing, partially due to the fact that it can be easily affected. So overall, it has a decent effect and everything. It's just the mechanic a little bit hard to fight against the higher tier deck, but against the deck in the same tier as this deck, I think they can more or less can compete. And that's why I decided not to put Celestial and Kyrie in the same tier, because they are Mimish can kind of fight against these 2 decks a little bit consistently. So yeah. And that is all I have for today for the tier list. I know it's far from the perfect one. You know, it's been a while since I do this, and it's been quite a while since I do playing any Vanguard at all. But if you guys have any comments, do leave it down in the comments below. And also I will leave the link to the tier list in the description as well, so you guys can try it out and, you know, post in the social or whatever. And yeah, I have social now on Twitter at Megane1. You guys can follow if you want to. I try to keep my posts daily as much as I can. If there's something interesting in my life to post about, you know, so do follow it if you want to. And yeah, that's all I have for today. Take care of yourself, and this is Megane signing out.